Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan, the voice behind ThatKaitoDan, and welcome to my review for RWBY Volume 5 Episode 4, Lighting the Fire. Before we start, be sure to check out the episode via the official sources, and also, please watch with caution, as spoilers are ahead. With that done with, let's go over some of your comments from the last review. Inspector Who Reactions thought that unforeseen complications was surprisingly good and very nerve-wracking during the initial scene in Menagerie. He also points out how Ozpin's attitude during his opening speech in Beacon in Volume 1 could be related to his soul merging. Very interesting theory that. The Skyheart 5 hopes that Weiss being in the bandit camp means a possible moment with Vernal that could prove to be very entertaining given their different backgrounds and reactions to their possible destinies. And finally, Light Dragoon 88 thinks that Ren and Nora's weaknesses that Ozpin's training session could work on may be tied to their lack of effective strength and predictable attacks respectively. Definitely some curious theories brewing there after last week's info nuke. Don't forget though that if you want to see your opinions and comments in a future video, be sure to leave them in the comments down below and tune in next time to see if they pop up. And yes, last week was quite the topic heavy watch, that's for sure. With our first sample of Ozpin's mysterious past explored and some tense moments for Weiss and Blake, there was more than enough for us lot to speculate on and enjoy at the same time. But did episode 4 light the fire to another bright spark in the volume, or was the volume's strong form snuffed out? Let's find out. We open back on the road again, with Yang riding on her way to Raven's home base, with a shady man that she punched into a pinball back at the pit stop leading the way. And the dude is clearly planning on leading her into some kind of trap. They make their stop, and the still bruised bandit heads off to spring his obvious setup, but Yang is no fool. You can't trust a bandit, let alone one who's got a grudge against you. So Yang gears herself up for a tussle just in time to block a gunshot from Shady and his fellow rogues that group around her. Shady talks big, thinking that he's finally got one over on Yang, but he's a tad dim, as he lets loose the information that Raven's HQ isn't too far from where they are now, which is all that Yang needs to hear. Before she starts the rumble though, it's worthwhile to note that Yang isn't as playful as she used to be in these kind of situations. Compare this to how she reacted with the fight with Junior and the Malachite twins, and you can see the differences following Beacon's fall and Yang's injury. Yang isn't cracking jokes or being flirty, she's focused and composed. There's less swagger to her this time out, and that's very telling. Anyway, the fight begins, and Yang just about rocks everyone. In what must be her first proper fight since leaving Patch, Yang's not rusty at all. She's just as agile and tough as before, but Yang's actions are noticeably slower as she is actively taking her time to scope the battlefield, thanks of course to her sparring and advice from Tai. Yang's learned not to depend on her semblance all the time, especially when its rage can cloud her judgment in battle. Now Yang is patient and thinking with a calmer head, while still doing her best to hit hard and effectively in this fun domination of a scrap. What I also enjoy seeing is more of Yang's trademark recoil style. It's a method of striking and movement that is a huge part of Yang's overall approach to combat that makes for some very flashy and effective moves that have entertained me a lot over the past couple of volumes. Not just in terms of using the momentum of her blast for added oomph in her punches and kicks, but also in how she chains her movement from one foe to the next. Like when she uses one bandit to springboard off into a group before unleashing a spin kick that takes them all out. Lovely work from the animators here, taking on board the usual flair of Yang's fighting style while also portraying a sharper and more grounded Yang, but still with that same air of confidence. And man, is Shady having a bad day. He's already lost a tooth, his fellow bandits are getting trounced, and after Yang pulls off a move that I swear must be a call out to Bakugo in My Hero Academia, especially since Shady Man is voiced by Bakugo's VA Clifford Chapin, the unlikely rascal gets decked out once again by Yang, before finding out that he just tried to mess with Raven's daughter. Might be time to retire, dude. Ever considered taking up the hero business? Of course, I can't continue on without mentioning that Yang's hand was twitching once again after a fight. While Yang does well to keep herself calm in the end, it's clear at this point that she is having to do her very best to keep her emotions from getting too out of hand. No pun intended. And if she's already having these reactions in a basic fight against a bunch of no-names, then it'll be extremely interesting to see her attitude when dealing with something related to either Adam or Blake. But either way, it's still good to see these glimpses of her emotional scars. She's still recovering even up to now, and it's that element of her character development that won't be forgotten. After that fun opener, we go from 1-on-7 to 1-on-1, as we jump to Mistral for Oscar and Team Ranger's training sessions, with RWBY and the farm boy sparring to work on their hand-to-hand skills. Judging from what I can see, the two are obviously uncoordinated with their attacks. Their posture is weak, leading to some off-balance moments, and their attacks are kinda noticeable. But they are giving it their best and are doing a solid job given their initial experience levels, and it does make sense for the two to be the other sparring partner, at least for their first training session. RWBY especially looks decent in comparison to past instances where she's had to fight weaponless, making a lot more use of her speed and training to pull off some more effective moves. And Jean notes that Oscar's not doing too bad either, likely thanks to Ozpin's muscle memory starting to kick in. Still, Oscar's inexperience does eventually get the better of him, as he socks RWBY in the face and wastes time apologizing instead of defending RWBY's retaliation. Good to see RWBY actually win a punch-up for once, even if it is just friendly sparring. In time, I'm sure both will do much better against more capable fighters, but these are good first steps. What would help Oscar out though in the long run is remembering to engage his aura. He can't depend on Ozpin reminding him to activate it in the heat of battle, so learning firsthand is a tough but worthwhile lesson. Also, I think that's the first time since Pyrrha unlocked Jean's aura back in Volume 1 that we've touched on the need to activate your defensive aura. I'll put more focus on that topic in a second though, as Ozpin decides it's time to take over as RWBY's sparring partner, offering Miss Rose a tougher opponent, and boy does it show. After he engages his aura, Ozpin makes quick work of RWBY, getting in more direct and heavy shots, landing a very nice jump kick, and getting RWBY all flustered, leading to her downfall via a stiff headbutt. Again, this has been a good start, but both Oscar and RWBY still have some way to go, in both offensive, defensive, and stamina targeted ways. The headmaster switching back to Oscar, whose body is now starting to feel the effects of being pushed farther than it's usually been from his days working at the farm. At least Oscar isn't being left behind in the dust to depend on Ozpin doing the fighting for him. I'm sure that will come in handy in the future, having Oscar be an active soul in combat. It's here where Ren starts to offer the young lad some knowledge in regards to aura. It takes a lot of concentration to generate an aura by yourself, even more so when you're inexperienced with combat as a whole. But in time, the more that Oscar works at it, it will soon be second nature to have it active during fights or other dangerous situations, to the point that he can activate it without even thinking about it. Nice to get some clarity once again that aura isn't always on, and it's good that we got this now while Oscar is still learning, instead of it being brought up among huntsmen who would already be very aware of this information themselves. Having it now during Oscar's initial growth helps such information avoid coming off as forced for our benefit. Also, I guess this explains how Ada was able to stab Sienna so easily. Either she didn't have her aura unlocked, which would be unlikely for someone leading the White Fang, or Adam's attack was such a sudden shock that Sienna wasn't prepared for the strike. Once Oscar has gone to grips on his aura and built up his fighting skill, it'll then be time to try and unlock his semblance, with Nora adding her voice to the discussion now, whilst giving us a clear statement that Ren's semblance is indeed masking emotions. Thanks for the confirmation, Nora. Nora also inadvertently brings up Jean and his lack of an unlocked semblance. The knight's starting to get depressed over his lack of progress, though Ruby, being the considerate person that she is, quickly cuts him off from feeling down, saying that just like Oscar, the group know that Jean can continue to get stronger, and everyone will do what they can to help him. Ren offers some more aid with highlighting a popular belief that a semblance isn't just someone's power, it's a part of who they are, their personality and character being staples that define your semblance, though others think it's the semblance that can define your character and personality, or some people just don't see a connection at all. We've seen glimpses of these tidbits with Yang and her rage, and most notably, Blake and her copycat clones taking the damage while she runs away, and I think the mention of no possible connection is a nice bit of hand-waving to avoid explaining some character semblances might not play off their personality traits exactly in the future. It's not easy to know when you finally get your semblance as well. Ren didn't know about his until the emotional stress of losing his parents, and that kicked in on its own. While Ruby, it turns out, unlocked hers during a training session. I wonder, did Ruby first discover her semblance in that spot with her sister in Yang's character short? True, Ruby and Yang didn't exactly react to Ruby zooming off in a wave of rose petals like it was her first time, but she did get knocked out after using it, so that could have been her first use ending poorly, and everything else was just too busy focusing on Yang's fight with that Beowulf. Oh, and Nora's discovery of a semblance was when she got struck by lightning and didn't die. Wow, that oddly fits for someone like Nora. Plus she does wield one hell of a lightning rod for a weapon. Also, it being on a crazy Thursday has to be a reference to Thor, right? More like Thor's Day? Leave the bad puns to Yang or me, Rooster Teeth. Cheeky buggers. Anyway, Jean gets sullen again over his struggles, but Ozpin checks in again to offer up some advice for him and all his students. They are still young, and have plenty of time to still grow. Plus, just because they have their semblances doesn't mean that's the limit of their potential. Winter did say in Volume 3 that semblances are like a muscle. The more you use them and fine-tune it, the stronger it can become. With time, effort, and support, who knows what this group can achieve, so they must keep at it and try to discover it. For our first training session with the group, this was not bad. We got clear signs that the group are steadily improving. The discussions on aura and semblances were a welcome listen that helps confirm a few things like aura activation and the origin point for some of the cast's semblances, unlocking for either emotional or chance means, and we even had a nice helping of humor to go along with it. I'm glad this group is already looking like a very solid unit with the new addition of Oscar as the rookie, and they play off his nature in charming ways, Ruby being especially the biggest example, which fits in as she is in that sort of leader role, so it's good to see her act on that position as a sort of mentor and helpful aid in this ragtag group. Plus, Ren and Nora not being bystanders but actually giving out worthwhile advice is also appreciated, as it keeps them from feeling left out, with the obvious focus leaning away from the two in this volume. Jean's attitude with his semblance is definitely starting to set up an eventual dramatic moment once he finally unlocks it, which no doubt will be quite the landmark for his personal arc. And I have to praise the lighting in this entire scene. The sunset tones fitted so well for this mellow atmosphere, and it meshed well with the beautiful backdrop and the character models. With that done, we return to Yang as she finally enters the bandit tribe hideout, with a couple of her recent opponents as bruised guides, much to the surprise of everyone else in the camp, and this creates enough buzz that it brings out Vanal and drags away the two guards who were watching Weiss, which means that Weiss finally has her escape window, summoning her pocket knight so it can try and bash away out of the cage. I guess the noise factor stopped her from escaping at night. And so folks, this is it. After many years of trying to find her, and after we've been waiting for this moment to happen properly, Yang finally meets Raven, who is surprisingly rather pleased to see her daughter. Yes, she jokes about Yang beating up her men and praises her victory, but beyond that, she almost seems happy to see that Yang is here, though her comment about Yang finally visiting is a bit cheeky. It's not like Yang was the one who ran away. Raven knows that Yang has been looking for her for so long. It's been a personal goal in Yang's life ever since she was a little kid, and it's caused her a lot of pain. So Raven making light of what is understandably a very emotional moment in Yang's life causes Yang to have another bout of emotional stress hand twitching, before Yang keeps her cool, besides vocally venting her frustrations over Raven's attitude. Regardless, Raven continues to act rather homely, praising Yang's mettle for making it this far and saying she'd even let Yang stay for the night. She'll even get the cooks to make her something nice, and Raven will actually listen to whatever questions Yang has. It's pretty clear what Raven's motivations are that are warranting this friendly nature from her. She's trying to curry Yang's favor into joining her. Raven's philosophy is that she prioritizes strength in a person above all else, and to Raven, the fact that Yang got back on her feet after the fall of Beacon and losing her arm is commendable, worthy of her respect even, and deserving of a chance to become a bandit alongside her mother. That's why Raven didn't lift a finger to help Yang over the years, bar her one exception on the train. Because Raven wanted to see if her own flesh and blood could show strength and fortitude to get to Raven by her own merits, as a sort of test. And now she's here, Raven is ready to accept her. But Yang isn't ready to accept her mother, at least for the moment. I know it's been a bit of a hot topic in the fandom lately, debating on why Yang was looking for Raven despite clearly aiming to get to RWBY, but now we know why. Yang isn't here to address the strained relationship between herself and Raven, she's here because she wants Raven's help in finding RWBY. And as soon as Yang says this, Raven's attitude returns to her more well-known coldness, clearly not happy with this outcome, especially when Yang makes a sly plea that she should help her daughter because regardless of their issues, they are family. Given her comment about family only coming around when they want something, I reckon that's reflective of Crow asking Raven to rejoin the group or get information like with their previous meeting. And she's not happy that Yang is trying to use her as well. She may have even been somewhat hurt that Yang brushed off her warm gesture so firmly, which would be a bit ironic given their history. But anyway, Raven questions why Yang would put in time and effort into finding her mother when Yang could have easily just put the same effort towards finding her sister if she means more to her right now. Thing is, Yang knows RWBY was aiming to get to the capital Mistral, but she has no clue if she is there right now or if she's still on the road, and going all over Anima to find a small group is no easy feat. However, Raven can help Yang avoid wasting her time if Raven uses her semblance. That's right folks, we finally hear what Raven's semblance is. It's not good or bad luck, it's not future sight, it's those portals. Specifically, portals that can send Raven to people that she's bonded with. There's one for Tai, who told Yang about this, one for Yang, as shown with Raven's debut on the train in Volume 2, and finally, one for Crow, as seen during the siblings' chat back in Volume 4. And that's the portal that Yang wants to use to jump straight to RWBY instantly. Damn, that's a pretty cool semblance to have, especially if you need to travel in a flash or aid a partner in need quickly. About time we find out what Raven's semblance was. But boy does it not help Raven look any better for leaving Tai and Yang for so long. She's capable of seeing her husband, her brother, and her own daughter anytime she wishes, no matter where she is. But even though she knows that Yang has been wanting to meet her again for most of her life, she's never used her gift to see her, outside of when she was already knocked out by Neo. Wow. Mother of the frickin' year indeed. Imagine how painful that must have been for Yang when she first found out about that. That's pretty messed up. and no wonder Tai was so broken up after Raven left and never came back. She could have easily done so in a snap, but nope. The guy lost one wife forever, and then her second wife won't even come back even though she could. Okay, I'm sure Raven has some reason for why she left. As cold as she can be, I doubt even she would leave simply because she felt like it. Something must have gone wrong. But that's still a really poor move on her part. Though it does explain how she can meet up with Crow every so often whenever it suits her, as Crow puts it. And crummy implications aside, that is still a nifty ability to have. Also, I wonder, she must have a new bonded portal so she can get back to her tribe, right? It doesn't sound like the portals are a two-way deal, so does she have one for her whole tribe? Doubtful, otherwise she'd just have a single portal shared between her family members instead of a separate one for each. So if she does have one to get back to her tribe, my guess is it's connected to Vinal, her right-hand woman. Hope we get more information on that power soon, and Vinal's history as well with Raven while we're at it. So yeah, there's a lot to digest on that nugget. But back to present day events, Raven admires Yang's boldness to come all this way just to ask for her aid in front of her people, but touts RWBY as a lost cause, not worth chasing if she's siding with Crow. Mostly due to Raven's negative opinion on Ozpin, with the tribe leader warning Yang not to trust in the headmaster like she once did. Okay, so now we're starting to see some connection forming between Raven's past decisions and Ozpin. Interesting. Though not to Yang. She doesn't care about that or Raven's continued attempts to have Yang stay. What she does care about is her sister, and nothing is going to stop her from being by her side, not even her mother. This is a side of Yang that I have always loved. Beyond all the wisecracking and badass fighting and emotional drama, I love that she is still a proud and protective big sister who will do anything for RWBY. After seeing how broken and distant she was with RWBY at the end of Volume 3, I'm so happy to see that special love fire up in Yang once more. Also, points for Yang's knockback insult to having gained her stubbornness from her mother. I guess she got her epic burns from her father. At this point, it's clear that this isn't going as Raven hoped for, so for now, she's given up on winning over Yang, ordering her men to take her away. And now this tense situation is getting even more on the edge. Yang's fearing her best way to get to RWBY as soon as possible is slipping out of her fingers, and it's causing her emotions to boil, outright demanding that Raven take her to RWBY, damn it, and her eyes go red. She's not keeping her cool this time, which starts to get the other bandits heated as well. But Yang won't take no for an answer, managing to send the Slipknot looking bandit flying right into a nearby tent, revealing Weiss in the prison hold. Oh boy. Well, cat's out of the bag, and with all eyes on Weiss, there's no sense in being subtle with her escape, so it's time for Plan B. The B meaning Big Night, as the summon bursts out of the cage so Weiss can aid her friend. The pair of them far from happy that Weiss was a prisoner of Yang's mother. But before everyone starts to fight, a lightning bolt strikes down, and this time it's not involving Nora. No, it's thanks to Vinal. Again folks, Spring Maiden. Raven's glad for this because a fight with so much negativity brewing out in the wild like this would only lead to a swarm of Grimm coming in, so it's best to avoid that. Raven also orders for Vinal to give Weiss back her weapon before telling Yang and Weiss to head into her tent. If Yang is so adamant to go to RWBY, then apparently she needs to know the truth. Guys? I think we may, and I stress may, be getting a Team Stark flashback soon. Or at the very least, we're going to be finally learning more about Raven's past. But that will come another time. For now though, everyone else scatters off, and Weiss sleeps into Yang for a great big hug. It's been months since she last saw Yang or any of her old friends, and after everything she's been through in the last couple of months back home, she needed this, as did Yang. It's a wonderfully sweet moment, our first Team RWBY reunion, and I won't lie, I did tear up watching this, thanks in part to the emotions behind it, the stunning shot of the night fading away beautifully, and the lovely use of Home playing in the background. It's a perfect scene to end the episode on. That whole scene was very emotional in multiple ways. I love how the opening moments had that right batch of tension to it, building up to the long-awaited meeting, with the use of very little music to aid the nerve-wracking feel, and then the stellar directive work focusing on the expressions of both Yang and Raven, which was top stuff. As I said a moment ago, the final moment with Weiss and Yang was equally well crafted. And overall, this entire segment I feel did live up to some of the hype built around it. We got a heartwarming reunion and a nail-biting reunion. One built on a happy moment for two girls who have suffered a lot lately, and the other offering new insight and mystery to a character that we've been curious about for some time. I may have given Raven a justifiable hard time in this episode, but I'm still fascinated all the same as to why she's done the things that she has, and why she felt the need to test her daughter while being so distant. We'll know more soon enough, but the semblance revelation was an exciting new dynamic edge to her character, and I'm glad that we were able to witness this moment while seeing that Yang's arc with Raven isn't going to end after their first true reunion. It's only just begun. Yang though was truly the star of the episode. We saw her first genuine fight display a woman who has clearly started to evolve from her experiences in the past while still having some of that usual fire and flair that embodies Yang's nature, even though it's in smaller bursts. The jabs at her mother and confidence against the bandits is classic Yang. It's just with an added touch of the past and some of those wounds that still need to heal that makes it feel different and more mature. Also, the voice acting was top notch from Barbara and Anna, who both had to deal with newer material in a pulse-pounding scene that was key to both characters. Even Carol was wonderful for as little as she had to deal with. Her performance with the tearful reunion was as emotionally pleasing as it should be. The first training session scene deserves some praises as well, especially with regards to being built around Oscar. The kid's inexperience and requirement for extra information benefited us as the audience as we learned equal to him on the aura and semblance topics. There was plenty to leave a smile on my face in this episode and leave me excited for things to come regarding Jean's semblance and the truth that Raven wants to share. And from start to finish, the lighting and the use of music was fantastic. Some of the best atmosphere creative directing touches in the volume so far, with the Wild West-esque slow tension building remixes of I Burn and Armed and Ready being some of my favourite remixes of character specific scenes in the entire show. Onto the voice acting Gold Star Award, and I'm gonna give it this time to Barbara Dunkelman, who did an excellent job from a more restrained sense of humour to her more frosty and blunt speech with her mother, and of course her frustrated yet still restrained anger. This is definitely a Yang that has changed compared to the more expressive and carefree Yang of old, and I'm happy to see that Barbara continues to do Yang justice even in these new emotions. So all in all, for an episode with not really much going on in terms of events, I found myself enjoying it quite a lot. True, all this episode really had was Yang meets her mom, reunites with Weiss, and Team Ranger and Oscar have their first training session, but it still delivered where it needed, and I didn't come out of it feeling like I wasted my time. A pair of strong emotional scenes with memorable moments to them, some entertaining showcase action pieces, and just enough setup for the next chapter of these arcs that were intriguing and exciting in many ways, especially in regards to the ever mysterious Raven Branwyn. Yep, I think I can say this was a very good episode, at least for me. Heck, I give any episode props if they can make me nervous, excited, laugh, and cry all in one go. And at the rate we're going, I doubt this will be the last episode to pull that feat off. But those are just my feelings, it's time to share yours. Were you satisfied with Raven and Yang's first true meeting? What's your take on Raven as a character following her semblance reveal, and the truth that she's looking to share? And what do you hope to see next with the kids over in Mistral? Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're at it, hit the subscribe and bell buttons to make sure you know when a new video is out. And follow me on Twitter at ThatKaitoDan for more on all things RWBY, updates on future contents from yours truly, and more. Until next time though, have a good day or good night, and peace out.